Hi boys and girls. Today's lesson in Saxon is lesson 95 and it is titled Reducing Rates Before Multiplying, and this lesson is related to the lesson that we have done previously that was cross-canceling before multiplying. So to refresh your memory, the lesson involved looking at the numerators and denominators and finding the relationship so that we could cross-cancel before we multiplied, so that we would end up with a simplified product when we were finished. So if you look at the fractions I have written on the board, we can see that some of them are related. This 2 is related to the 4, and it's also related to the 6. So I'm going to go ahead and cross cancel the 2 and the 4. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. And then the 5 divided by 5 is 1, and 5 divided by 5 is 1. And then when you multiply across the top, you get 1, and across the bottom, you end up with 4. So the product of this multiplication problem is 1/4. So you can see that we already have a simplified or reduced answer. If you look back at the original problem, we would have had 3 times 2, which is 6 times 5, which is 30. So clearly we do not have to simplify. It cannot be simplified any further. If you remember correctly, sometimes when we do this cross-canceling, we still end up with a product that can be simplified further. So sometimes even when you cross-cancel, you still have to simplify your product, but that is not always the case. So in some problems, when you are dealing with a problem that has rates or units, you can cross-cancel the units. And that happens especially when you are dealing with a product, when you are dealing with problems that involve ratios. So let's review real quick what a ratio is. A ratio is a comparison of two numbers by division. So if we start off with this problem, 4 miles per hour. Remember this right here, this division sign always means per. So if I have 4 miles per hour, and if I travel for 2 hours, and the question is, if I write that as a ratio, then how many miles would I expect to go traveling 4 miles per hour if I travel 2 hours? And I know that many of you are saying you know the answer is 8 hours. And you would be correct. So the way that we would work that problem is we would cross-cancel the units so that all we are left with is the miles. So then 4 times 2, of course, is 8. And then we would be left with 8 miles because we know that any number over 1 is that number. So the answer is 8 miles. Now, it is super important that you know how to set up this problem as a multiplication problem, and you know how to cross-cancel out the units, because in the future, you will be given a math problem that is not a simple problem where you know the answer, and you will be expected to know how to set up the multiplication and how to cross-cancel the units, and so you know what the end unit should be in your problem. So in the future, you're not going to have a simple problem that you know, oh, I know that's an easy answer. You should know, you should practice setting up the multiplication, the proportion problem, and practice the multiplying and practice canceling the units so that you know how to solve more difficult problems in the future. Another problem that your book gives you is, let's say that you are going to travel 55 miles per hour. So hopefully you're writing these things down in your journal. If you're not, maybe go ahead and get out your journal and maybe take some notes. Let's say you're traveling 55 miles per hour. And let's say you travel for 6 hours. How far would you expect to go? So what you would do is you would set it up like this as a multiplication problem, and the units that would cancel would be the hours. So you could multiply 55 miles by 6. Sometimes I like to do it like this: 50 times 6 plus 5 times 6. Well, I know that this is 300, and I know that this is 30. So 300 plus 30 is 330 miles would be the answer to this problem. So you would travel 330 miles. That's the way that you would solve this using what we know about ratios and how to solve them. We've got one more to work through that has to do with inches. And once again, it's going to be a very easy one that I know you can solve mentally, but let's practice writing it down. Let's say we know that we have 5 feet, and we know that there are 12 inches in 1 foot. So how many inches would be in 5 feet? And I know right now you're all saying 60, because that's what you would do in the classroom, right? We can cancel out the feet, and we would know then that 5 times 12 is 60. And what is the unit that we're left with after we cancel out the feet? It's inches. So we know that the answer is 60 inches. So in this lesson, we have learned that cross-canceling can be applied to units as well as numbers, and we can use it in our problem solving when we set up multiplication problems using what we know about ratios and knowing what we know about cross-canceling and multiplying when we're using fractions. It is super important when you're solving problems like this with multiplication and fractions that you are neat and you're careful, and that you're writing down your numbers and your units, and you are taking your time, because as you move forward in math, you're going to add negative numbers. You're going to be adding variables, and it is going to be so tricky if you're not careful and neat and precise, because you'll get to the end of the problem and you'll have the wrong answer, and then you'll have to go back and rework it, and over again. That will cause problems for you in your math, and your math will take you twice as long. So slow down, take your time, write it out neatly, show your work, and get it right the first time. And then you can move on and you will be able to do other things with your time. So take your time, be neat, do the best that you can. Solving problems with cross-canceling your units when you're solving problems. Thank you. See you next time.